Gridiron grinder! Hut hut hike!
Okie dokie. Here we go. Tonight's episode 18 of Gridiron Grinder. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Basically, we're going to be providing our weekly NFL team power rankings and game picks. How's it going tonight, James?
It's going good.
Sweet. So let's talk about some of the games from last week just for a little bit. I bet the schedule makers were pretty bummed out about putting Dallas and Philly in Sunday night primetime, huh?
That and what was the Monday night game? Even though
Oh,
it ended up being a good game, that was terrible game on paper. Tampa and the
in New York?
Giants.
Yeah. Yeah, the Giants, man, they kept it interesting. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, I just I think the Giants need a new quarterback. Like Daniel Jones is not progressing like I thought he would. He
No,
has he has those glimpses, but then he throws an interception.
yeah, I tell you what, man, it makes me wonder, is it because their offensive line is that bad that he just doesn't even have time to think and process? It's almost like the old David Carr syndrome. If the guy has no time to do anything, he's never going to get better. But I don't
Yeah,
know. Like you said, there have been glimpses. It's totally erratic.
yeah, but like you look at the 2 point conversion for him, and he was late on it. He had plenty of time to make the throw. He was late on the pass and threw it too far on the inside, and that's why the 2 point conversion failed. If he would have thrown it on time a little bit to the left shoulder, not the right shoulder of who was it? Lewis, whoever
Was
it was.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if he would have thrown it to the left shoulder instead of the right shoulder, it probably would have been complete.
Gotcha. All right. Well, hey, let's just kind of move along here. So we got our the flashy new segment we've been doing for a few weeks now. Name that stadium. So we've we've gotten blanked 3 weeks in a row, as far as I can tell. I didn't check it today, but normally I get an alert if somebody throws a comment in. So whatever. We're just gonna keep trying because we're having fun, and that's what it's all about. So basically, the idea is that James is going to be putting a home team stadium behind him every week, and we want a listener to take a guess at what it is. The first person that does, they get a special shout out in the next week's show. And so, James, why don't you tell us where were you last week?
Last week I was in Baltimore with M&T Bank Stadium,
Okay.
I think's the name of it.
And so, was the inspiration the same as the previous few weeks?
It was definitely the same. That was the best game. It ended up being the probably the most competitive game ultimately last last week too.
Oh yeah, it was a good game. Came down to the wire.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. So, hey, we got your stadium up this week. Hopefully, we don't swing and mess again. But if we do, whatever. We're just having fun anyhow. So, enough of that. Let's jump over to our power rankings. Why don't you give me 1 through 5?
All right. So 1 through 5, I kept 1 and 2 the same. Left Pittsburgh at 1, and Kansas City at 2. Well, as I think about it, probably I don't know if Pittsburgh could completely stop the Kansas City offense, but Pittsburgh's just looking too good, and they get injuries like Devin Bush, who I was concerned about a couple weeks ago when he got hurt. They're just power. Like I
Yeah.
mean, they they saw that they couldn't really do much running against Baltimore, so they just did passes and came back and won the game in the second half. I bumped Seattle up to number 3, and Seattle's kind of a little bit of an enigma to me. I really don't like the defense, but they keep winning games and they keep doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
Uh, I think the defense might be helped a little bit this week with Jamal Adams coming back,
Yep. And I
but
think Carlos Dunlop's eligible now. Yep.
exactly. So that might solve some of the issues they have on defense. We'll see. Baltimore, even though Baltimore lost, they got a 1 spot bump as well. Um, Part of it is because I dropped Green Bay from my top five, and
Yeah.
so Baltimore just slid up. I think Baltimore's better than my number five team, which is Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay is playing really good too. Except for like on Monday night, the thing with Monday night I see is I think they were looking ahead at the Saints and kind of just were saying, well, it's the Giants. What are they going to do on us? They can't do anything.
Gotcha.
So Tampa Bay jumped two spots from seven to five.
Okay. So yeah, looking over at my board here, we've got the same 1 through 5, just in a different order. And basically, I've got Pittsburgh and Kansas City 1 and 2, just like you do. Then I've got Baltimore at 3, Tampa Bay at 4, and Seattle at 5. And what changed for me is Pittsburgh and Kansas City stayed the same. Baltimore, I bumped them up 1. Tampa Bay, I bumped them up 1. And Seattle, I bumped them up 2. And looking at Pittsburgh, that game came down to the wire, but that's two dominant teams. And so, obviously I kept Pittsburgh at 1 because they're still the lone undefeated team. And I just like the way they're playing, so I'm keeping them there. Kansas City, they cruised by the Jets, which was expected. Hey, that's cool. If that game was close, it might have made me think, what the heck's going on? But they did what they were supposed to. They beat them by a wide margin, and so I'm keeping them at 2. Baltimore, just like you're saying, despite them losing to the Steelers, they played well. And then on my board, Tennessee lost. And so, really, I didn't have a whole lot else to do except bump them up, which I was fine with. It just was a little bit weird. But Tampa Bay at 4, here's the thing. If they would have asserted some dominance against the Giants like they should have, I probably would have moved them to number 3. And then it would have made like my top 5 maybe like a little smoother from where it moved from last week. But they just kept that game too close. And so I'm only moving them up 1 spot for now. Still like that team. Seattle at 5, they got back on track, beating down the 49ers. I don't know how big of a deal that is because, there were obviously more key injuries for the 49ers. And I don't know, I mean, they're playing on like their 6th string or something at this point. But, they kept it interesting towards the end of the game. It just, moving them up 2 spots on my board seemed to make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so flipping it back to you, man. Give me 6 through 10.
All right, at number six, I have Green Bay. I dropped them down 3 spots. I think Green Bay's run defense is
Oh,
really
horrible.
concerning. It's horrible. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, imagine if Green Bay was playing Baltimore this past week. I mean, crap, Baltimore put up 260 rush yards against Pittsburgh, who only allows like 70 yards rushing a game.
Yep.
Imagine how many yards they put up against Green Bay. And I just, I'm really down on Green Bay because I really thought that there was a solid chance they would get another weapon for Rodgers. But then again, last night's MVS looked pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe they're thinking that they already have that second receiver that they need. Tennessee, I only dropped them down 1 spot. The reason why I only dropped them down 1 spot is, and I talked about it a little bit last week when we were making our picks. Tennessee does not do well against teams that are clearly below them. It's a history of this team. I think the stat was it was of their last 20 games against a sub 500 team, they were 1-19.
No shit. Wow, that's pretty crazy.
So and now it's 1-20. I think the only sub 500 team in there that they beat was Houston.
Man, that's
They-
shocking.
yeah, it is. It's really shocking, and I should have gone with my gut on it that trend would continue, and pick Tennessee to lose last week, but I I didn't. And Arizona, I bumped up 1 spot to 8. Um, Part of this is because I dropped the Rams out of my top 10. I think Arizona is a little bit too inconsistent, but I mean they're playing. They for the most part they're playing well, and that offense is close to unstoppable. How they're
Yeah.
playing. New Orleans got the one spot bump. Hey, they won, and they keep winning. Even though I'm really down on this team, I'm even more concerned for Drew Brees because he's dealing with a shoulder injury now.
Okay.
So I mean, this team is probably going to drop out of the top 10 next week, depending on what happens this weekend. And then Buffalo got a 2 spot jump. Yeah, they barely won against New England, but I think they're better than the Rams, and I dropped Chicago down and I dropped the Rams down, and they kind of Buffalo up because I don't think Buffalo's worse than Chicago or the teams below them. I have a lot of concerns about Buffalo. Their
Hmm.
defense is playing like shit lately. Jo- Josh Allen's been playing like almost playing as bad as Daniel Jones lately. So I have a lot of concerns about them, but hopefully they can get it back on track. And basically, they buried the Patriots. Patriots aren't gonna come back and win the division. They're probably not gonna make the playoffs. Finally,
Yeah, a turn into the tide here, but yeah, I so talking about Buffalo, I've got them at 6 on my board, and I bumped them up 2 spots, but I agree with everything you're saying. It depends on which Buffalo team are we getting, basically. I thought it was awesome. Sean McDermott got his first win against the Patriots, but they got to have more consistent play. And the Patriots are definitely giving them the opportunity to win this division, but the Dolphins really aren't that far behind them. And
hmm
Buffalo early on in the season looked unstoppable, and then they had a streak of games where it looked like, holy cow, what the heck's happening with this team? And then this past week against the Patriots, to me, I thought there was a little bit of, maybe redemption's not the right word, but, sort of like, hey, we are a tough team. The Patriots, they had their backs against the wall. They knew they had to win. They were driving at the end of the game, almost took that thing to overtime. And, Buffalo, they got that strip sack and, they got the win. And so I like Buffalo, but yeah, they got to be more consistent. At 7, I got Green Bay. I dropped them down 1 spot. Basically, man, we talked about it last week. I was so close to switching that pick to Minnesota at the very last minute, and it's for the reason that you talked about. Their run defense is just so freaking bad. But ultimately, I thought, hey, Minnesota doesn't really even have a defense, so I figured Green Bay could still outscore them. Hey, I was wrong, but whatever. That's just how it is sometimes. At 8, I got New Orleans. I bumped them up 1 spot. Really, man, I was high on New Orleans coming into the season. I've toned down my expectations a lot. Them creeping back up to 8 on my board, that's great, but I still think they should have had a more assertive win over Chicago. And, this team, it could all change when Michael Thomas comes back. If he'll ever come back, nobody really knows. But like you're saying now, Drew Brees, shoulder injury, man, it just seems like there's like some kind of a cloud kind of hanging over them where you just wonder if anything's really going to come together. 9, I got Tennessee, and they took a big hit this week. I dropped them down 6 spots. You and I, hey man, we've been high on Joe Burrow, giving him props every week. That's great. He's still a rookie, and he's on a team with basically no offensive line and a definite bottom tier defense. The Titans shouldn't have lost. It was just an ugly game, and so I had to bring them down a bit. Hopefully, it was just a 1 week wonder, and they'll start proving their worth, working their way back up. 10, I've got Indianapolis. I bumped them up 2 spots. This is a tough one. I hate Philip Rivers. I mean, the guy, we talk about him double agent all the time. But Darius Leonard came back. That defense looked great. This is one where I did switch my pick last week, and I'm glad I did because they just fucking beat the shit out of the Lions. they're showing that they can win games, man. Even if they can't run, Rivers did it through the air. And then, Jonathan Taylor, he played through an injury and he was really ineffective, but the other backs, Wilkins and Hines, they stepped up. This team has some weapons. They can make it happen.
Yeah, agreed. I think that Indianapolis, aside from Rivers, I think they have a really, really solid team. And I have them at 14. I gave them only a one spot bump for beating the Lions. I mean, I should have. I thought about changing that pick, and I wish I had. I obviously didn't because I was drinking the Lions Kool-Aid. Um, at 11, I have the Rams. I dropped them down 3 spots. Look, they lost to Miami, which I changed my pick
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Miami. The more I thought about it, the more I was thinking that Miami could come out and shock the Rams. I really like what the defense did against Goff.
Yeah, that's the thing that blew my mind is I thought maybe there could be a little bit of a surprise factor with Tua catching their defense off guard because they don't really know how to plan for him yet. But holy shit, they just beat him with defense, man, and they beat him badly with defense.
Well, one thing I heard this week was, and I completely forgot about it, but Flores was in New England when New England played the Rams in the Super Bowl, and
Yep.
they went out there with the same defensive plan against the Rams this past week and had the same success they had in the Super Bowl against them. So, I mean, like I've said, there's ways to stop Goff. He's not super talented. He's not the best quarterback, and those teams that figure it out are the Rams. Once you figure it out, the Rams can't do anything.
Yeah, makes sense.
So at 12, I have Chicago. I dropped them down 1 spot. I mean, they stayed in it with New Orleans. I really hate this team. I really hate the offense. It's not creative. They have a solid defense and they're winning or keeping games close because of the defense only.
Yeah.
They need to do something with that offense, and it probably involves getting a new coach and maybe shake up, put the third string quarterback in. Maybe he's better than I mean, shit, I could probably play better than Foles has been playing. San Francisco, I left them at 13. I'm not as down on San Francisco because I can never when you think San Francisco is going to win, they disappoint you. When you think they're going to lose, they surprise you. I want to take a pause and on San Francisco before I move them and see, and even after last night's game, that's not. So they'll probably be here next week too, depending on what happens around them.
Sure.
But I mean, they need a new quarterback, and I was thinking about it with San Francisco, and there's probably 3 quarterbacks that they could trade for in the offseason and get rid of Jimmy G and instantly improve this team. You got Matt Ryan, you have Kirk Cousins, who both have played in Shanahan systems, and then the third one would be, because the Jets are going to have the number 1 pick, Sam Darnold.
Yeah. I don't see Darnold being a fit with Shanahan, but you never know. I mean, he could make anything work, I'm sure. But, I'd love to see him reunite with Cousins. I suspect that his issue would probably be similar to Matt Ryan's, where if they dealt him, it's going to be a massive dead cap hit. And so both those guys, I think it's going to be challenging to do anything with. But I agree. They got to make a trade. And, there's already been a ton of speculation that they could ship Jimmy G back to New England. They're desperate for a quarterback. Belichick liked him. Maybe him and McDaniels can get some stuff going. But, yeah, I agree. The 49ers, they got to make a change, man.
Yeah. And so at 14, at Indy, I touch on them a little bit. I want to see. Rivers still concerns me. He's been playing better, but he really concerns me. They don't have anything there behind Rivers that's anything better. So, I mean, he's the best they got, and he likes to throw interceptions, even though he hasn't the last 3 games, maybe 4 games. And then Vegas, I gave a 2-spot bump. Part of the bump was look, they went on the road to Cleveland in a cold weather game and beat the shit out of Cleveland. Cleveland's a decent team.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say they're an elite team, but if you look at the history of Vegas, one of the problems they had the previous years was going on the road and getting their ass kicked. I mean, shit, they lost by like 30 points to the Jets last year.
Yeah. Yeah, that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
All right, well, yeah, flipping it over my way. So I've got Arizona at 11. Basically, there was no game, so no change. I got the Rams at 12. I dropped them down 2 spots. I can see the argument for moving them even farther. I know you got them at 11, so I'm kind of in the same range as you. Losing to Miami, yeah, it was tough, but Miami, they've been sneaky good this year. And so I'm chalking it up to just a bad game and, against a team that's better than people are giving credit to. And so we'll see. 13, I got the Raiders. I bumped them up 3 spots. It's probably a little bit more than they deserve, in terms of the bump, but just kind of the way the board kind of shook up around them, it seemed like the right place to put them. The weather, like you said, was obviously a factor in that game, and they showed they've got the offensive line and the running back to grind those kind of games out. I like that kind of football. Basically, you're just saying, you know what, we're just going to ground and pound, and, if you can't stop us, you can't win.
Yeah.
And it was a
Also,
low-scoring game, but they made it work.
you got to remember about that game was Trent Brown was hospitalized before
Yep, yep.
pre-game. The guy that filled in for him, I can't even remember, got hurt. So they had like their third string in there on the offensive line, and they still did good.
Yeah, I mean their offensive line is stacked, but yeah, it's still anytime you got to change like that, it's not easy. And so then right behind him at 14, I got the Browns. I dropped them down 1 spot. Basically they just couldn't get anything going against the Raiders. Weather was a factor, I get it, but man, it is the Raiders defense who people just been running a train on all year. So that kind of concerned me with Cleveland. But, whatever. Everybody has down days. And then 15, I got Chicago. I dropped them 1 spot. I liked that they kept it close against the Saints. But, man, I'm just, I'm still not sure what to make of this team. They're great on defense. Glaring weaknesses on offense. I don't know, man. David Montgomery, he looks good at times. But he also looks just like batshit crazy the way he runs in the backfield sometimes. And so it's just, I don't know, man. Like, it still feels like when they're winning, it's kind of fluky. But, they hung in there against the Saints, which are a good team. So I'll keep them at 15 for now, and let's see where it goes. All right, kicking it back to you, man. Give me 16 through 20.
All right, so at 16, I dropped New England down 2 spots. This team is completely devoid of talent. Like they have nobody. I think they have one wide receiver now that they just traded for that was drafted.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
They're in trouble. And then Bill Belichick all week is whining because, oh, well, we don't have the cap space because we sold the future to win those Super Bowls. No, and you didn't draft well. You didn't.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's so much more than not having the cap space. If you would have drafted decent, you would have talent there. And it's clear to me that the last year what kept them afloat was the fact that Brady could put Band-Aids on that now.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking almost a 20-year dynasty. You can't just say all of a sudden the cap's catching up with you now.
Yeah, exactly. And at 17, I have Cleveland. I dropped them 1 spot. I probably should have dropped Cleveland more, but I mean, they were playing the Raiders, who I had right around as the same talent as them, and I was high on the Raiders coming in. The defense was terrible. Raiders defense has been terrible, and then all of a sudden, Cleveland can't move the ball on them, which it was confusing. I have a lot of concerns about Cleveland. I don't think that Baker Mayfield's going to be there after this year. I don't think that he's their long-term solution. He's too. I just said this last week that he had been consistent this year, but he had been consistently bad.
All right.
And I didn't take that into account when I made that comment and I believe I picked Cleveland last week. Stupid me.
Hey, we,
It,
we had a rough week with the picks, man. We'll get there
yeah,
at some point, but yeah, don't beat yourself up too bad.
18, I left Philly there. They might be the best team in the NFC East.
But
They
they would be
might
a bottom feeder in any other division, basically.
exactly. Like that division is terrible.
Yeah.
19, I left Miami. I'm really high on Miami. I think Miami has a solid shot at making this division competitive. With Buffalo, I would like to see Tua do more than throw for 93 yards
Yeah. It
before
was
I
his
get tired.
debut, but I agree. Yeah.
I want to see this defense has been consistently good, but I want to see a little bit more from the offense before I move them up. And then at 20, I gave Denver a 2 spot bump. I just It's Denver. I have problems with I have problems with Denver for so many reasons. Drew
Yeah.
Lock looks terrible except for in the fourth quarter. And of course, then again, they were playing the Chargers, who give up leads. I mean, that was their third game that they lost where they led by more than 16 points this year, and they almost lost a fourth. So it's just, but I have to give them the credit for the toughness I've seen from the team.
I got you. Yeah, I thought with Denver, hey, maybe we just got to talk more shit about Drew Lock, and then he'll finally come to play. But
Yeah.
it was all in the fourth quarter. So, all right, looking at mine, I got Miami at 16. I bumped them up one spot. I thought it was a surprise win. I know that you flipped your pick, which was awesome on your part. Uh, we talked last week about this being a potential trap game for the Rams going against a rookie quarterback, but like we said a minute ago, it was all about the defense. Just shut them down. And that was an interesting point you made about Flores being on that Super Bowl team that shut him down then, too. 17, I got San Fran. I dropped them down 2 spots. The box score really made that game look closer than it was. Shanahan, he's just got to keep working some magic because these injuries, it's unbelievable. And this is a guy, it almost reminds me a little bit of the Chargers for a number of years where they were just snake bitten. Every year they had a rash of injuries and they just could never get everybody to come together. That feels like, aside from last year's run with the 49ers, that's how it's been every year for Shanahan, man. They've had just ridiculous luck with injuries, bad luck. Denver, I got them at 18. I moved them up 4 spots. Definitely way too much of a bump. It just happened to be everybody else on my board in that range lost. And so I moved them up. Hey, Locke was clutch at the end of the game. How much of that's him? How much of that's the Chargers letting these games go? I don't know. But, they're at 18. I'm not really thrilled with it, but that's where I put them. 19, I got the Chargers. I dropped them down just 1 spot. I felt really confident with them beating the Broncos. And so it was a bummer, but I'm hopeful that this team is going to start winning games because Herbert's been playing great. The defense really mostly looks good until the end of the game, and then they fall apart. But they'll be getting Eckler back soon, and let's see. Either way, the future's bright with their young rookie quarterback. They do have pieces there, but yeah, if they don't get wins, James, you've been calling it all year. Anthony Lynn could be gone. So, and then 20, I got Cincinnati. I bumped them up 6 spots. Man, I just thought it was an impressive win over Tennessee. And so I'm giving them a big bump this week. I don't know if they can hang on to this spot on my board, but, we like Burrow. The offense, they're making things happen. Joe Mixon will be back. It's just the defense. Can they do enough that this team can keep, at least winning every other game? I think that's a good goal for them. Just win half of them from here on out.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
going back to you, man. 21 through 25.
I have Cincinnati at 1. I left them at 21, not 1. I left them at 21 because my concern with Cincinnati is Joe Burrow's doing great, and but it's just that this team has no talent, really. Like, I mean, they have some pieces, but they don't have an offensive line. They don't really have a defense. I don't know how the hell, like, I really don't know how the hell that they beat Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I, I kind of look at it as more of a fluke than an actual statement as to what Cincinnati is.
Well, when you point out Tennessee's record like you did, yeah, I could understand why you would think it's a fluke win.
Yeah. Detroit, I dropped them down only 2 spots. And the reason why I dropped them down only 2 spots is because I'm starting to come around on Indy, and
Okay.
I think Indy is just that good of a team to where I'm not going to kill the Lions for losing to them. Even though I picked the Lions to win the game, I think Indy is that good of a team to where I don't think the Lions should drop that far. Now,
Okay.
weirdly, the Chargers got a 1 spot bump. This bump is because I dropped Carolina way down. I I like the team. I like the team the Chargers have. They can't hold a win. They just don't have situational awareness. That's the issue.
Yeah.
If you look at the game against the Broncos, it was like with 4 minutes left in the game, it's on a first down. They run a running play. The running back doesn't have anybody really around him, isn't hit, and he runs out of bounds. And it's just like little stuff like that
Yeah,
Anthony
you got to
Lynn
play smart football. Yeah.
is not teaching them. And one weird rumor I've heard this week is Jim Harbaugh.
I mean, it seems like he's on the outs with U of
Yeah.
M.
Well, actually, I hear that U of M will not fire him. He will he I what I'm hearing, and I forget who I heard say it, but it was one of the announcers for U of M that I heard say it is basically he's got the job as long as he wants it.
Okay. Well, that's
I mean,
fine. I hope State keeps beating them too.
exactly. But what I'm hearing is he kind of has that itch to get back into the pros.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
And one thing I also heard was his wife does not like Michigan.
Well, who does?
She really liked it when they lived in San Francisco and um, Palo Alto when he was at Sanford and San Francisco, and so she wants to come back to California,
Gotcha.
and that's where kind of where those rumors are stemming from, with Harbaugh going to the Chargers, but they have to do something. And Andy Lynn is not the coach. If this team wants to get better, they need a new coach.
Gotcha.
And then Houston got a bump, and Jacksonville got a bump. That's 24-25. Their bump is because, again, I dropped Carolina way down, and so it just kind of ended up with a bump for those two teams.
I gotcha. All right, so let's see here. I got Philly at 21. I bumped them up 2 spots. Honestly, they don't deserve a bump, but I gave them one anyhow. Between them and Dallas, neither team wants to win this division. I think it's done for Dallas now. And so really, with how well the Giants played against Tampa Bay, maybe that's the team that's going to start making a run here. I don't know. I mean, somebody's got to do something. 22, I got Carolina. I dropped them down 2 spots. I waffled on this pick in the game last week, and it was stupid. I had Atlanta. Last minute, I switched. Basically, I went looking for reasons to pick the Panthers. And when you do that, you're always going to find the reasons. And, I mean, whatever. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. I still think what they're doing is really good with a a new coaching staff and a younger sort of influx team. Bridgewater's not really young, but he's new to that team and that system and everything they got going on. I think it's a great story still. 23, I got Atlanta. I bumped them up 2 spots. I could have put them over Carolina because they just beat them, but they did just lose to them a few weeks ago too. And Atlanta had been in free fall all the way up until they fired Dan Quinn, and now it seems like they're playing with a lot of heart. They've kept a lot of close games. Even though they lost to Detroit, that game went down to the wire. They played solid against Carolina. This is a team that they've got talent. They just got to make it happen now. At 24, I got the Patriots. I basically smoked them on my board. I dropped them down 5 spots. I probably shouldn't be pushing them down that far, especially when I was just talking about, they had their backs against the wall and they played tough against Buffalo. The problem is, man, their record just sucks at this point. And, you get the feeling that it's too far. Like they're not going to come back from this. You talked about it. They're lacking talent. They have a number of injuries. Edelman's out. Whatever you want to say. I mean, it just, and they got hit by the COVID opt-outs. And I know they got a lot working against them. And I'm just saying, hey, I still think Belichick's arguably the best coach of all time. It's just not going to happen this year. And then at 25, I got Houston. For them, no game, no change. I just kept them where they were at. The board didn't really move in some crazy fashion that they were going to go up or down just because of that. So I kept them there. Switching back to you, man. 26 through 30.
26, I gave Minnesota a 3-spot bump. I mean, they did beat Green Bay, and I mean, they ran all over Green Bay. And I just think that Minnesota team it's looking like they can rally and get it back together. I don't know how far that will take them, but again, I think there's a lot of issues on this team. I think their defense has been playing pretty bad, and we'll see what happens this week. For the game this week, I've waffled back and forth on it so many times. Atlanta, I give them a one spot bump, partly because I think that's this team, how they've been playing lately, is better than Carolina. Carolina's been playing tough and been in games, but I think, which I dropped Carolina 5 spots to 28. I think that Atlanta they have a lot of talent. It's just playing with that cohesiveness and capitalizing on that talent. And I mean, who knows? Maybe at the end of the year they're going to blow it up and they'll be next year's New York Jets. 28. Like I said, I have Carolina. My problem with Carolina is they don't seem to be able to get over that hump.
Yeah.
It's they're in the game, but they can't just make that one play. Like we talked about it last week against the Saints. If Bridgewater doesn't take that sack, they kick a field goal, they go to overtime. Maybe they win the game. Maybe they don't, but they have to play more consistently and get over that hump. 29, I dropped Dallas 2 spots. Dallas is terrible. They're horrible. I don't even know who they're starting at quarterback this week. I don't really care.
Oh, buddy, I'm going to tell you, but we'll get there.
Is it Cooper Rush or is it
Fire Up Chips? That's right. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to actually get the start. I know he's in the conversation. I just gotta get a little bit of love to my Central Michigan guys, man.
Right. It's like their quarterback room: Danucci, Garrett, and Rush. It sounds like a law firm, not quarterbacks.
Hey, man, Cooper Rush, he's got a sweet, just like teardrop pass, man. He puts a lot of air under the ball. I like that in quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, I do too. I can't make a judgment on him because obviously I haven't seen him play a pro game, but out here in California, we really don't get Central Michigan games on TV very often, so I haven't really seen him play, so I can't make a judgment on him.
I got you.
And then 30, I left the Giants at 30. Yeah, they played Tampa Bay tough, but I guess Daniel Jones, if they have any quarterback besides Daniel Jones, not any, hypothetically say they have Trevor Lawrence right now, not Daniel Jones. 5 wins? 4 wins?
It's a bit aggressive in my opinion, but they would have had a few.
Like, like they probably would have beaten Dallas. They probably would have. Okay, so just say go there. They're 3 wins. They're in first place.
Yeah, I mean, I got you. I hear
I
you.
mean, granted, their offensive line sucks, and their franchise running back, which was stupid to draft when they did, got hurt and is out for the season. And granted, they have those issues, but Daniel Jones is just terrible.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's tough sledding. All right, so looking at mine, I got Minnesota at 26, just like you. I bumped them up one spot. Nice win over Green Bay. It was definitely a shocker. I think they can beat Detroit this week. And honestly, looking at their schedule, I don't have the whole thing in front of me, but when I was making my notes, it looked like other than Chicago coming up, they do have like a 3 game stretch that's super soft. And I think that plus this week against Detroit, that could be what saves Zimmer's job, man, because this year's been a fucking train wreck for him. 27, I got the Lions. I'm dropping them down 6 spots. I obviously got a little bit giddy the way I bumped them up in recent weeks. This is exactly why I hate the Lions. They can't beat a team that's over 500. And I like what you're saying. Maybe Indy's better than we've been giving them credit for. But I don't know, man. At some point, Patricia has got to beat a real team or he's got to go. And listen, I watched that game. I like watching the Lions, even though I get all pissed off and stressed out for no fucking good reason. But, that penalty on Danny Shelton, I thought was questionable. And that was sort of like a momentum shift in that game that the Lions never came back from. But I don't think it even mattered, man. I mean, they fucking lost by 20, so whatever.
So you mentioned Minnesota's schedule.
Yes.
After Chicago, they have Dallas, Carolina, Jacksonville.
Yeah, man. That's a super soft schedule. I mean, Carolina could play them tough, but those should be easy wins aside from that.
Yeah, but then after that, they have, let's say, 3 or 4 against good teams. After Jacksonville, they have Tampa, Chicago, New Orleans.
I know, but let's just say you beat Detroit, and then you string together those 3 against the guys you just talked about. That's 4 wins right there. Even if they lost out from the rest of that point on, I think their ownership group could look at it and potentially give Zimmer a pass.
Sure.
I wouldn't do it. I'm just saying that I could see why they might. All right, so at 28, I got Washington. I bumped them up by 1 spot. Despite them being on a bye, I talk about these teams. I don't like moving them if they're on a bye unless the board just works that way. This one, I'm just, maybe I'm being premature here, but they're playing the Giants, and, I think they're going to beat them. So I figured I better at least put them above the Giants. At 29, I've got the Giants. I dropped them down 1 spot. They played well against Tampa Bay, but I think they're about to lose to Washington. And so either way, these teams are kind of all like right in that range anyhow, whether one beats the other or whatnot. And then 30, I got Jacksonville. This is like my classic no game, no change. It'll be sad though, if Minshew goes away here because of the. I don't think the record is all on him. I think he's put up some good stats. He's had some definite errors in games. This thumb thing, I think they're using it as an excuse to basically put him on the shelf and finish tanking the rest of the way. We'll see. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe in a couple weeks his thumb's better. They get him back out there. I don't know, man. I like Minshew. I'd love to go after him. I'd love to see Shanahan go after him. Whatever. I get it. A lot of people don't like him, but I'm digging Minshew, man.
Yeah. And the thing with Jacksonville and tanking, they only have to equal the record of the Jets because Jacksonville has an easier schedule than the Jets. So Jacksonville would have the tiebreaker.
Gotcha.
The Jets would have the tiebreaker and get a lower draft pick because of that.
Okay. Yeah, it's good. It's good info. It's good info. All right, man. Bottom of the barrel. I see 31 and 32. I
Yeah,
see your
but
yeah.
31 and 32 stayed the same for me. It's Washington and the Jets. I really like what I see on Washington defensively. I really do.
Yeah.
Hell, I picked them up this week in fantasy defensively. Well, partly because they're playing the Giants, but also because I really like what I see defensively. Chase Young is a stud,
Yeah.
and then 32, it's the Jets. My debate this week was if Bill Belichick's going to lose purposely to the Jets so he doesn't have to have Trevor Lawrence in conference, in division.
That would be a Belichick kind of move,
It
you
would be.
know? And you're one of the few people that could see that happening. That's interesting. All right, yeah, 31-32. I got Dallas and I got the Jets. Basically, I can't drop Dallas any lower at this point. I think their season's done. But, I don't think the Jets are ever going to win. So Dallas is at least above them. The Jets, hey, man, we talk about it every week. They suck. I don't know that you got to say anything else. So I'll leave it at that. Let's move it along here and jump into our Week 9 picks. Just doing a quick recap. We sucked it up pretty bad last week. I pulled away from you by one game. I think it's pretty crazy that we're that tight at this point in the season. We're basically at the halfway mark. We're sitting at 76 wins and 77 wins respectively, which is good for 65 and 66% on the year. I kind of thought with how bad we did last year, we would have dipped down more. And so I don't know, maybe I'll have to go back and double check that formula. But, still hitting 2/3 of the games, I still think that's pretty good. All right, so looking at Thursday night, last night, we had Green Bay at San Francisco, and we both took the Packers. Last week, I was pretty excited for this game, but with all the injuries, it just, it's just tough, man.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, it's so tough. Like I'm surprised that Green Bay wasn't hit more with the COVID bug with Dylan playing all game last week with
Yeah.
COVID, because it was his game day test that tested positive, and somehow, luckily, wasn't really spread amongst the team. And like you said, San Francisco, I mean, injuries galore. They were asking people to try out to play wide receiver for them because they had nobody.
It's
Like
not
like
good,
they
man.
they were
Yeah.
calling high schools to see if they could sign some of their wide receivers. It was bad.
And it's funny that you say that because interestingly enough, I heard that today the Lions signed Mohamed Sanu to the practice squad. But wasn't he with the Falcons when Shanahan was there? I mean, you would think if that guy's got anything left in the tank, Shanahan would have gone after him. And so, this is one of those
Yeah, he
moves.
was.
I see the Lions make this move, and I'm like, swing and miss. Otherwise, Shanahan would have grabbed that guy. This guy must be done. But hey, we had Galladay go down. I get it. We need at least some depth. Hopefully, there's something there. But or maybe Shanahan just overlooked it. Who knows? We'll find out, I guess.
Wait, Galladay's injured now too again? I must have missed that.
Yeah, Galladay got hurt, I think, in the first half, and he never came back. And the last I heard, his status is in doubt for this week.
I must have missed that. Like last week, I got so pissed off at the Lions game, I turned it off. So
Mm,
I'm not surprised that I missed his. Yeah, he's out this week.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Let's look at the Sunday slate. We got the New York Giants at the Washington football team. And before you give me your pick, I will just tell you it pisses me off every time I got to say Washington football team. I just wish they would fucking pick like an actual team name and let's just move on with life. I heard that they might stick with the Washington football team through next year. I don't know why.
Yeah.
You got like a whole fucking year to figure it out. Let's get this shit going, man.
What I'm hearing the problem in Washington is they have selected their new nickname, but there's a trademark issue.
Okay,
because
so they
because
got to like buy out some company or some guy, and yeah.
because a couple of years ago, what I hear is going on is a couple of years ago when some guy foresaw that Washington was going to change their name and started trademarking and selling cups and shirts with all these possible Washington Cougars,
Oh,
Washington Redhawks, and Washington this and Washington that. So they have to buy the trademark from him. I also
ah,
I also heard that they are for sure going to be the fucking Washington football team next
for
next
one
year.
more year. Yeah.
Which it's always hilarious when because I have DirecTV and I have the Sunday ticket, so I go to the games and it's like football team at Baltimore
Yeah, yeah. Well, no
or,
shit.
or
There's a football team playing.
right, and it's just like just drop the football team and just call yourself Washington.
Yeah, that'd be fine. That would be fine. I don't know. It's weird, but that's pretty sneaky on that one guy's part. And
Yeah,
I don't know, man. That kind of stuff. It's like I can look at it both ways. It's like, hey, kudos to that guy because he's going to get some money out of this. But on the other hand, I'm like, fuck that guy because he's messing this up. So, all right. So in this game, who do you like, man?
uh, I'm on the football team. I'm sorry, I'm on Washington this game.
Yes, yes. So my model says Washington, and when I originally looked at this matchup, my gut was kind of telling me to go with the Giants, but and maybe some of that is just because of how well they played against Tampa Bay. Maybe I'm focusing too much on that one game, but I just can't see them winning. Washington, like you said, has a great defensive line. The Giants, they don't have an offensive line. I think that's going to make it very difficult for them. It could be a very sloppy game for Daniel Jones as a result. And then Washington on offense, they've actually been making things work. With Kyle Allen, Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin. And even their tight end Logan Thomas, the converted quarterback. These guys have just enough juice there that they can make some things happen. Man, I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, moving on. We got Chicago at Tennessee.
Well, you already know that Chicago I'm not picking because I hate the Chicago team.
Yeah.
Not, I don't hate them as a team. I just hate how this team is playing. I think their offense is terrible. I think Tennessee's going to come up pissed off after losing to Cincinnati. Plus, Chicago's above 500.
Yeah, so that it should be a clear win for them because they'll
Yeah,
they'll play hard and they'll get what they need. And I don't know. I mean, what's Chicago at now? 5 wins
yeah. No, are they
or
five
four
and two or are they
wins
6-2?
or six? I guess my point was that's basically 5 losses for us on the picks because we never pick Chicago, and I'm staying that way. I'm going with Tennessee. Had they not been upset by the Bengals, I would probably feel a lot more confident with the pick. But I still can't trust the Bears offense, man. That's the bottom line. So I'm going with Tennessee.
They're 5-3, by the way.
Okay, so that's 5 losses out of my picks because they've got me there. But I probably got 3 wins out of them then. So all right, so let's move on. Detroit at Minnesota.
So, so I must have somehow I missed the Galladay news. I knew what it boiled down to me on this game was until you pointed out the Galladay news on me, which I don't know how I missed it. When I looked at this matchup, it came down to whether or not Stafford was going to play,
Okay, yeah,
and
because of the
I
COVID stuff. Yep.
I was running on the assumption that he was going to play, so I was going to pick it, and then at game time I was going to make a final decision if I switched it. But without Galladay, I'm switching it to Minnesota.
Hey, that's cool. Yeah, I'm going with Minnesota. I honestly, I thought my model was going to pick the Lions because I didn't actually even take Galladay out of my model, and it still showed Minnesota winning. And I don't know if that's just because I got a little bit too much weight on the home field advantage, which I've toned down a ton, just because there's still like barely any fans, or depending on where you're playing, no fans. Um, you know, I just think Minnesota can run the shit out of the ball. and they can have maybe not as much success as they had against Green Bay, but they should be able to have success running the ball against the Lions defense, which has been highly suspect this year. You know, we talked about the trade rumors with Cousins. You know, I'd like to see him get something going. We know he can do it, but I also, if a trade is a possibility, it makes me wonder, do you want to see him light it up? Because if he starts lighting it up, then they're not going to want to trade him. But then if he's not lighting it up, then maybe nobody wants him. And so I'm overthinking the Cousins thing. But either way, I think Minnesota wins this game. I'm with you on it. I'm sticking with them. All right, moving on, man. Carolina at Kansas City.
Do you have to ask?
Well, you know, I don't have to, but
Kansas City.
you know, in
Kansas
case
City
you,
is a far superior team than Carolina.
yeah, I mean, hey, I figured you might have a couple talking points or a fun fact from one of your sources, so I had to ask.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I know. I don't. I didn't have as much time this week to come up with the fun facts, so I kind of had to focus in on the matchups and look at that.
Okay. Hey, that's cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going with Kansas City as well. You know, I like what Matt Rule's doing in Carolina, but I think he's at least a couple years away from being at the same level as a team like Kansas City. Next up, we got Houston at Jacksonville.
Uh, this one's a difficult one for me. I think both teams are pretty bad. Let's just start there. I
Mm-hmm.
think what it boiled down to is I don't know who's playing quarterback for Jacksonville,
Yeah.
and I
Jake
know
Luton? I don't know how you say it.
I know the quarterback that Watson can be.
Yeah.
So I went with Houston.
Yeah, I went with Houston as well. You know, I actually just heard on the radio today that Houston is giving them 7 points on the spread, which I think is pretty generous for Jacksonville. But with how porous their defense is, and you couple that with them starting a rookie quarterback, I think Houston can beat that spread, man. And so I'm not a bettor, but you know, like if I did, I would actually consider putting money on this game because I think Houston's actually played pretty good all year. They've just not been able to get shit done, and their offensive line is weak. I don't want to act like they're some solid team. I mean, their record sucks. Obviously, they're not that good of a team. But Jacksonville's like a really bad team, and so I think, yeah, can Houston beat them by more than one score? Absolutely. Will they? I don't know. That's why they got to play the game. So, okay, next up we got Baltimore at Indy.
So this one, I overrode my model on this one.
Okay.
My model came out with Baltimore, but I look at it, and if you look at the last 4 games that Lamar Jackson has played against a good team, you got Kansas City last year, you got Tennessee in the playoffs, you have Kansas City this year, and you have Pittsburgh this year.
Mm-hmm.
All 4 of those are losses. His quarterback rating drops to like a 60 something in those games.
Yeah, it is concerning, you know.
It's difficult for me to see Baltimore losing 2 games in a row, especially seeing as though I thought they were going to be like 13-3, 14-2 this year. But I'm going with Indianapolis.
Hey, it's a solid pick. I'm going with Baltimore though, so this is one where we're going to have a little bit of fun. You know, maybe one day we can share notes on our models here because mine was actually the reverse, and my original pick I sent to you was for Indy. I ended up flipping it, going with Baltimore just based on my gut feeling. When I look at these two teams, I just think that this is going to be a defensive battle. And I think in that kind of a scenario, you know, you saw last week, Lamar Jackson, man, he kept it interesting all the way up to the very last play. I think it's different with Phillip Rivers because he's not a mobile quarterback at all. I think their run game can be contained if they're facing a great defense like Baltimore's is. And I think if you put a lot of the pressure on Rivers, he's got a tendency to start making those mistakes and throw some picks or fumble the ball. And I think that's where Baltimore has the edge in this one. But hey, my model had Indy, so but I'm going with my gut.
One thing with Baltimore, I would say, is they have to simplify their offense. I was actually Phil Sims listening to him talk about this game a little bit earlier today, and he said, as a quarterback, you need those 5, 6 plays where you don't have to think about it. You don't have to
Yeah,
make a read. You don't have you just have that play and you go with it, and you don't have to do anything. It takes a lot of pressure off you. And when he watches the tape on Baltimore, he can't see that happening.
that's true.
So, I mean, that's an interesting thing to look out for with Baltimore is if they can simplify that offense with him and just take a little bit of pressure off of Jackson.
I got you. Yeah, and honestly, I think if they lose this game, I'll start really digging deeper into Baltimore. Because I think some of why I'm picking them is it's almost like I was hanging on to such hype with the Saints for most of the season. It's like my early model just had so much talent on that team, and they've had games where they have definitely underperformed. But I still think the talent's there, and so unless they string up a couple losses like you think could happen, I'm sticking with them for now. Next up, we got Seattle at Buffalo.
This one was a hard one for me to pick. It was because how Buffalo's been playing and the unknown with Seattle's defense, and I went back and forth on this, and this game could be the race to 60, the way both defenses are playing.
I got you.
And I ultimately went with Buffalo on it. Like I have it as an even-ish game, but I think Buffalo's going to pull it out, and which is weird because Pete Carroll, like Seattle's obviously favored in this game, and in the last 6 games against the spread, from going from playing on the East Coast at 1 o'clock, Pete Carroll's 4-1-1.
Okay.
But I'm still going with Buffalo.
Hey, good stuff. Let's see how it shakes out. I'm going with Seattle. This is another one. I agree with you. It was a tough game to pick. And similar to that Indy pick, I originally had Buffalo. My model was just barely giving them the edge. But when I started thinking about it, my gut was telling me Seattle. I like that they're getting Jamal Adams back. They got Carlos Dunlap eligible to play. And Russell Wilson, man, he's having an MVP year. So I just think that unless I see Buffalo get back to how they looked in those first couple weeks of the year, I think Seattle can win this one. But we'll see. That's why they play the game. They play to win the game. Next up, we got Denver at Atlanta.
This game is terrible. Atlanta doesn't play football in the fourth quarter. Drew Lock only plays football in the fourth quarter. Atlanta, I'm just going with Atlanta in this game. This one's more of a gut feeling than anything. I can't read either of these teams. They're playing way too inconsistently.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going with Atlanta. I'll leave it at that. We don't really need to dig too deep into this one. Next up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers.
My question this week is, what new way are the Chargers going to find to blow a 16-point lead?
I mean, it's a home game for them,
No,
and
it's
it's a
not a home
divisional.
game. Don't
It's
call
a
it a home game. It's more of
it's
a
a
home game for the Raiders than the Chargers.
it's a divisional game at home for them. I think that it can be tough. I think it can be a close game. But I'm going with the Raiders. It sounds like
Yeah.
you are too. So
Yeah, I'm going with the Raiders on this one. The Raiders actually played the Chargers better in Los Angeles than like the last couple of years than they played them in Oakland.
gotcha.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
the Raiders used to be here,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so when you look at the Chargers games in Los Angeles, you have more Raiders fans.
Well, yeah, but the Chargers. I mean, they're like the Florida teams, man. They don't have fans.
I think there's
Um,
more people in this talking right now than Chargers fans in LA.
oh shit. Yeah, really, for me, the deciding factor, well, it was a number of things, but I wanted to go with the veteran quarterback in Derek Carr. He's playing great this year. Um, I kind of felt like, hey, maybe the Raiders are a little bit pissed off because they just got stripped a pick and they got fined for the COVID stuff. Uh, but I also read recently that they've had the hardest strength of schedule, or one of the hardest strengths of schedule in the league. And so I thought, okay, maybe that's why their defense has been getting their asses kicked most weeks. But either way, I like that. It means that they're a tough team because they have been winning games. And so I'm giving them the edge here. Next up, we got Pittsburgh at Dallas.
Is it
I know,
possible
do
to
I
score
have to
negative?
ask?
Is it possible to score negative points in a game?
I
I,
mean, they can't go negative, but if you get safetied, I mean, that's kind of like a negative.
Pitts, Pittsburgh is in years past. This would be the classic Mike Tomlin choke game. This Pittsburgh team has shown that they're above that so far this year. They've had those spots where you thought they'd be looking ahead. You thought they would choke, and they've come out and played phenomenal. Dallas, I mean, by game time, they might be starting Joe Smith at quarterback. Heck, they might be starting Ezekiel Elliott at quarterback by game time. You never know.
I mean, they had him playing some Wildcat last week, so yeah.
Yeah. So Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh might score 60 and allow negative 20.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm going Pittsburgh as well. Really, to me, the only thing I think interesting is, like I said earlier, my guy Cooper Rush, he's got a shot to start this game. I'm loving it. Central Michigan in the NFL again. He's got a shot to start. Antonio Brown's back in Tampa Bay. Fire up chips. That's all I got to say. Moving on, we got Miami at Arizona.
I'm really interested in this game. Arizona, before the bye, and they're coming off the bye. Their offense has been playing really good.
Yeah.
Miami's defense has been playing really good. I'm really intrigued to watch this game. I want to see a little bit more out of Tua than I saw last week. I've been talking to you about it for months,
yeah.
how high I am on Tua. But I'm going to go with Arizona because I think Kyler Murray is right now just that step ahead of Tua.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And plus, Miami put Gaskin on the IR.
Yeah. And I mean, I think they've got a stable of running backs. They've not really done much with Jordan Howard yet this year, but I think he's still a solid running back. And they got Breida, unless he's hurt, which I thought I heard he could be coming off of an injury. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm going with Arizona as well. I like that they're playing at home and they're coming off of a bye week. I think Miami, their defense especially is looking really good. So it makes me a little bit nervous about this matchup. I just think all the things are in the favor of Arizona. Next up, we got New Orleans at Tampa Bay.
It's Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's defense is coming around. Tampa Bay has the cohesion. When coming into the season, when we talked about our projections conference for conference, I had Tampa Bay losing the first game against New Orleans, winning the second game. I think adding Antonio Brown to this offense is, say, 5 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown is what he's going to get this week.
Gotcha. I'd be good with that in his first game back.
Yeah, and plus you have the issues with New Orleans. I guess Breeze was dropped off the injury report today, but he was on the injury report and was supposedly a game time decision, which is concerning. But if he's having shoulder issues, which I believe it's his throwing shoulder, he already can't throw the ball more than 15 yards. You have an injury there. What's he going to do? Hand it to the running back, and that's it. He's not going to be able to throw the ball.
I got
you. So it's Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'm going Tampa Bay. I mean, I think that they're a much more cohesive unit than they were in week 1. It's sweet they got Antonio Brown. We don't really need to go any further than that. Looking to Monday, we got the Patriots at the Jets. And I mean, hey, you kind of leaked it that maybe Belichick throws this one. I don't know.
So here's the thing. I said that I'm not going with the Jets this week. Week 17, when the Patriots play the Jets, I could see Belichick definitely doing that.
Okay. I'm going with the Patriots here. Yeah, I mean, if the Patriots lose this one, stick a fork in them. They're done. But they got to win this one, and I think they will easily win this one. But we'll see. Looking to Thursday for the next week, we got the Indianapolis Colts at Tennessee Titans.
I'm going to pick this one as a tie.
Oh,
I'm kidding. It's that close. I think.
That's like picking 0-0 on roulette, man.
Yeah. Tennessee's defense doesn't play good, which is not as good as you would hope. The Colts, which bodes well for Rivers in this game. The Colts' run defense isn't as good as Pittsburgh's, but I mean they only allow 80 yards a rush.
Yeah, a game.
A game, yeah, 80 yards a rush. That'd be terrible. 80 yards a game, and so I think they could possibly shut down Henry a little bit. It's going to be a close game. I'm going to go with Tennessee.
Okay, well, I'm going Tennessee as well. This is one where I can see myself maybe flipping as the week goes on, and I've got more time to think about it.
Exactly.
Because with Darius Leonard coming back into the mix, the Indy D is playing at a whole new level, and I think that's going to make it very difficult, like you said, on Tennessee's offense, which is basically derived from the run game. But I still think Tennessee's the better team overall, and so I'm going to go with them for now, and we'll see how things shake out. All right, that's the picks for the week. Let's move on to the question of the week. And, man, this one is, I'm sure, way overplayed, but I'm just going to ask it anyhow because what the fuck. Will Bill Belichick retire after this season? What do you think, James?
Nope.
He can't go out a loser?
Well, it's not only he can't go out a loser. I just can't see him retiring after this year. He is gonna retire in the near future, 5 years from now. But I think before he retires, he wants to build this team back up.
Yeah, and show that it wasn't about Brady, that it was him all along. And exactly. I believe he can do that. I think that this is just a shit, series of things that worked against him this year. The opt-outs, like some of the missed draft picks, like you said. Cam, he rolled the dice on him, which I think rightfully so. Why not? You got him dirt cheap. It was good risk reward. But yeah, it's tough. This is his worst team in 20 years. I've already heard some people making comments that if he has a repeat performance, it could taint his legacy because then it kind of swings the pendulum more to the Brady side where they're like, oh, clearly it was Brady, not him. But I don't think it's that simple, man, because you look at this team, they've had solid defenses. They've had solid special teams, which might sound a little bit stupid, but it's been more than Brady for sure. Brady has been great, and the combination of them is arguably the best in history. But Belichick's still legit, man. And so I don't know. It's a reset year. Like you said, he's bitching about the cap situation. Okay, well, next year is his year to start coming back. And he's been too good every year with the way he churns that roster and gets people to gel. So I'm chalking it up as this was an anomaly, And next year, you know, it's not going to be that easy. He's still got to get a quarterback, and Cam is not the answer. But after this year, if the cap frees up, he's not committed to Cam, so he's going to have some options.
Yeah. Well, and this was a couple weeks ago that I heard this stat, and it was probably like 2, 3 weeks ago that in their last 16 games, the New England Patriots were 6-10.
Okay.
So this has been coming along
Yeah.
for a while, and it stems back into last year. But I just think with COVID and all the opt outs, I think they have some talent there that's not playing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. They've got some guys on defense. They've got I'm trying to remember if they had an offensive lineman. It's been a while since we looked at that, but yeah, I mean, I know they got their middle linebacker. Holy cow, I'm drawing a blank, but yeah, they definitely have some key players that were out this year.
Not Chung, the other guy.
No, Hightower.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey. Anyhow,
interesting stat about San Francisco. They have $88 million of cap on the IR.
How do you win a game with that, man? I mean, it sucks. It sucks so bad for them. I feel bad for Shanahan. He's one of my favorite coaches. I think the guy's just getting hosed this year. But hey, maybe something crazy will happen. They'll fire him, and then the Lions will hire him, and we'll get rid of Patricia, and then we'll be fucking sweet. You know, a man can dream.
Will the Lions ever fire Patricia is the question.
Maybe that should be the question of the week. I don't know. It's obviously not going to be mid-season like I was hoping, but what can you do? So anyhow, for whoever out there might be watching, please share your thoughts. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know what do you think is going to happen with this question of the week with Belichick. You know, hey, I know I'm one of like 10 million people to pose this question, but you know, we're having fun here. All right, James, that's all I got, man. You got anything before we shut this thing down?
No, I think that's all I got.
Okay. Well, hey, it was another good show. Anybody watching, please check us out again next week. We appreciate your support. You can hit subscribe if you want it just to automatically alert you once we get a new video up. But we are encouraging comments. We want to know how we're doing. We want to know what you think. And I think that's a wrap, man.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Well, have a good one. I will catch you later.
You too.
Gridiron grinder. Hut hut hike.